kind of get started on this, I think it makes sense from us, from a historical standpoint, like where we kind of come from over the last few years, to understand why we're where we're at with our roster. So way back in the day, I guess early spring of 2008, we took this nice little convoy on our red RAV4. I think Greg, myself, Eddie, and John went to go visit John at OCU about one-to-one marathon programs. And basically on the way back we drove. And on the way back we filled up about 3 or 4 steno pads worth of notes, developed our program, came back, and we had this game plan to develop all these classroom applications, and did that over the summer and launched in August. So the classroom roster was one of those initial applications, and this is a screenshot of our old thing with old device. And so in 2008, we launched that. And then as we kind of went on, in 2012, we relaunched a new version of our app, and that's kind of where this slideshow came from. This was the slideshow of the training session that we gave faculty to kind of introduce the changes we were making and why and all that jazz. So it's got a few good points in here, so I haven't modified this because I found out this morning that I was doing this tonight in front of everybody. So
it was on the
birds of a feather thing. So so I found this on Google Drive, which is handy. But it does have some pertinent bullet points, I think, that may make sense for those of you that were curious about this. So to kind of get in there, 2008 to August 2012, we had a very old, antiquated version that we developed just for iPhones, basically. And then through that, we decided, okay, technology's getting a little bit older. We've had some policy changes on campus, more academic policy changes. We actually had an attendance policy put in place. And then on top of that, they determined, okay, faculty have to take roll a certain way, and on and on. So as that kind of gained popularity, we decided to change our application to kind of match that. And during that time, those of you that remember IQ Web, we went from that to self-service and kind of did a rebrand there. So we split our roster application away from our suite, our classroom suite of apps. Just kind of made it a standalone thing, and then launched that in 2012. So in 2011, we had an ad hoc committee, and we don't call them ad hoc committees anymore here. In the academic sense, we call them working groups, I think. It stresses the faculty out a little bit less, I think. So, so we had
a working finishing groups. We call them working.
Yeah, working groups. They don't. Yeah. I'm not going to repeat that for the camera. So we had a committee that met in November, and it was a representative group of the campus, all disciplines. We had 2 follow-up meetings, and basically what they did was they came up with a list of suggestions that our application should do. So they came up with a list of 16. In addition to that, the framework that we had used, more of a UI framework, I think it was that old Yahoo UI, YUI framework, had a Firefox bug in it, the double submit thing. So we had a few things that we were trying to work around, and then also better integration of Power Campus data versus what we had initially. So this was the list of the 16 things that this faculty group suggested. The things that are darkened are the things we accomplished. The ones that are kind of grayed out were cut facial recognition, the ridiculous things they asked us to do that we said, yeah, RFID chips in the ankles, and they said no. So again, we came from an iPhone-centric environment, and then at the time this rolled out in 2012, we shifted from a MacBook, iPhone, iPod environment to an iPad environment. Academics kind of started driving the ship and decided they wanted to go with iPads. So we did a very iPad-centric app at the time. And it's been in place, this is what we use today since 2012. So we wanted to maintain ease of status change, and I think that's been one of our biggest things, one of our biggest assets is just ease of use from a faculty standpoint. Automating reporting emails, drag and drop seating chart, that's kind of some of the ridiculousness I wish we hadn't done, but we have. So I'll talk about a few of those things. I think it's important to note too I've got these things written down from a report generation standpoint and to where they go. So we don't do real-time notifications in the system. We do daily notifications. And one of the reasons for that is we still find a lot of faculty don't take roll when their class is. You know, they'll print off the roster on a sheet of paper, mark it up, and then go back into the system later and mark it, and that's cool. So we wanted to just make sure that students were receiving things after it was entered in and we didn't have any delays. So we kind of do a next day in the morning reporting notification kind of thing goes out. So we have a violation email that goes out to the student. So one email per course, per incident. And then also we have a summary email that goes out every week on Monday to all the students of all their absences to date in all courses. And then our academic units, we've got two. The Office of Academics does the notification letters from a policy standpoint, sending them out to students like warning letters. They give them 2 warnings. And then if they still don't show up to class, whatever that, I think it's 25% is our policy now, then they drop them from the class. They send those out daily, and so I'll give them a snapshot report that is grouped by classes and students several different ways. And then we also have another unit on campus, our academic success unit or retention. They get warning messages, basically, a snapshot of that information. So that's kind of how we got to where we're at. And then this is what the application looks like. So very, again, iPad-centric. It is not responsive at all. It's made for landscape orientation iPad. But over here on the left, that's awesome. So you've got a list of classes. So all faculty members have all of their classes for the given term. Somebody over in academic support changes this over from semester to semester, so you can only view the current term within this. And then down below, we've got a few tools. So we allow them to merge classes together. That's been always one of those sticking points with LMS and some of our other systems is how do you do that efficiently? So one of the things that we did in this application was we took what is really a cross list, like in our SIS, and then what people wanted, and we those as physical and logical. And so in this application, we created kind of this abstract layer just called a roster. So we've got our classes and our enrollments, and then there's a one-to-one at minimum relationship between class and a roster. And then what we can do is we can group several classes together and create a new roster. So what you see from a UI standpoint is a roster. So for instance, this Art 495 class, that's a roster, not a course. If I merge 2 together, I get a new roster based on the class. Does that make sense? So we've kind of got that front layer of abstraction called a roster. So we allow them to merge things together. So that's great, they like that. One of the failings of this though is we have a hard time updating it once it's been merged. It's just a little difficult because of also the seating chart functionality that we have. We allow them to search by a student name, or they can find a student by the course. So we wanted that ease of use of if they're sitting down one afternoon doing all of their reports off of paper, they can quickly come in, search for a student, find them, mark them absent, tardy, whatever, and then kind of go on from there. One of the other things we did was we added server logs. So basically every action in the system is logged, and then I as an instructor can see my logs. So I can see all of the things that my students are doing in the system, and then I can see everything that I've done in the system, as well as all the notification emails and things like that. So I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. So you kind of see date, time, the course ID, the course action, and then basically a description of it. So here in this case, I can see that a student logged on, went to this class, and loaded that class. So that's the granular level that we're kind of giving every faculty member. Because when we first launched this from a notification standpoint, again, this was 2008, there were a lot of trust issues. Well, how do I know that they received the absentee email that was sent? You know, I want to know these things. So that's kind of why we built this in, just so they can kind of see it. And then each one, at some juncture, we allow them to set their own warning levels as far as, you know, when a notification email went out, other than just a violation email and things like that. We've kind of rolled that back and made that more of a global setting. So that's kind of the tools that they have. Within each roster, then they have main functions. You can take roll, which is an easy just click, and it kind of cycles through each one of these. You can come in and manage, which basically is just the seating chart. Just drag and drop. You know, we're kind of limited by space on iPad, so it's a 7 by whatever kind of thing. And then we also have reports. And we actually put save buttons on a lot of things, although it auto-saves behind the scenes. We had several faculty submitting help desk tickets after this launch saying, I don't know how to save on this. There's no save button. So we put a save button, but it does nothing. I is UX expert. All right. Yeah. And then the last.
We really should pop up a modal that says, "Are you sure?"
That's on logout. And then we also have reports. So from the reporting standpoint, they could come in and kind of get a summary, absentees and tardies. And we're in a weird situation where, like, an absence is not an absence, an excused absence is an absence, but an absence is a real absence. And then it's up to the teacher to determine what an excused absence is. So that's why we have these absences and absence stars. The absence stars are basically excused absences up to the teacher, but from a policy standpoint, globally from the school, it's an absence. So when they hit that threshold of the 25%, then it goes back to the department, and then they can kind of make the decision whether to drop the student or not. So that's why we have a little bit of weirdness here and what those mean. So you can drill down to the specific dates. You can come in here every setting, stage, change, whatever you want. And then you can also send this to yourself as an email report and then export it out as an Excel file, which is kind of like what the academic units get from a global snapshot standpoint. That's it. So I guess whoever submitted that as a topic, do you have any specific questions? Or if you don't want to identify yourself, pass the note forward.
So are they able to take attendance in the LMS? Show up here?
No, that is one thing that ideally we wanted to do at some juncture, but then as you launch this and time rolls on, you're like, no, we're on Blackboard, okay, so no. And I guess I should have backed up and added this to that. Before these apps came around, they had little blue books and they were taking attendance there and then submitting it to our SIS, at midterms and finals. And then after that, we used the Baylor online attendance power link, I think at the time, and then building block. And then Baylor basically quit supporting it, and so then we kind of rolled that back at the same time we launched our apps in 2008. We have some people that use self-service to take roll. So I think where academics is kind of standardized is to do it here, because then they get comprehensive reports. But no, we don't integrate this into the SIS, or the LMS, sorry. And we're on SaaS now too, so a little more difficult. Versus when we were self-hosted and actually had access to the database. And that's one of the reasons too why I haven't decided to go back to the Baylor plugin. I don't remember what school picked it up here about 3 years ago, but now they're fully supporting it, and Blackboard's supposed to start using it in Ultra at some point. But I've also looked at, this is one of those things, there's definitely flaws in this. We have pain points, Of course, when you build things like this, based on the requirements that faculty give you, as soon as you launch it, they have 25 new requirements. So we're always kind of in that state. One of the biggest things is integration with the SIS is very difficult, just because of the roster concept that we have on there, as well as the seating charts, maintaining that data, as well, people kind of coming and going as well. So honestly, I've been looking at Quickly, just because it does have the Blackboard integration, if we continue to stay on Blackboard. So it seems to be a cost-effective solution. The only downfall of it is you wouldn't get the ID picture, and that's one of the biggest things that our faculty members like. They like coming in, and those of you at Harding, Rich Brown used to always do this here when he taught business here, was you had to bring an index card with your picture on it to class, and then that's how we learned your name and face. So, any other questions? Short and sweet.
Hey, that's all right.
Rock on.
Cover the topic. That's what we need.
Yeah. All right.
Well, thank you very much. Well, guess what? You gotta eat then. Sorry. Yeah, I'll agree on that. But I'll agree. We're gonna eat. Barbecue, what y'all like barbecue? You're in the barbecue capital of the world, so you're gonna have to eat some barbecue. Right?
Wait.